Take a running out of the last 3 years of whatever the event, which is disability, voluntarily leaving, or death. Take the running 36 months, take the best 12, take that number times a multiple. And that multiple is different. It's lower if it's voluntary leave. It's a little bit higher if it's disability, and it's a little bit higher if it's death. So the multiple's higher. And that's how you calculate the dollar amount. But that dollar amount then is cut in half. Half as the other partner gets it as an operation of law, and the other half is paid out over 5 years in 4 yearly payments. So Steve and I consider ourselves part of each other's exit plan. Like we're in each other's estate because we grew, and we didn't want to hurt our team if that happened. It also has a self-adjusting formula, so there's no arguments over valuations, et cetera, et cetera. The other agreements are fairly direct. Oh, they just come to us. But when we added Founders Group, we added some partners. What was that like?
That was very difficult. Was it Isaac Newton said something like, "I can plot the stars, but I can't predict the actions of men." And that's so true, the human factor. We had some very difficult issues with people we thought were going to work out with us, and it was a very.
I asked Founders Group. I think you're talking about the law firm we started.
Oh, yes.
The law firm we started. Let's go through that.
Okay.
After we were together, we had started another law firm, consumed some law firms, and started another brand.
Yeah.
So how did that go?
It did not go well in the long run.
It was like closer to Steve.
It was difficult in the short run as well, but we didn't see that coming. Sometimes you're blindsided by your own beliefs. And it was a difficult and hard parting of the ways, but we had to separate.
So we ended up building, put money in, we
Lots of
separated.
money.
There was a buyout, and that buyout didn't get paid, and we had to write off the loss,
Exactly.
unlike some other businesses we've had. Now, completely different with our Founders Group bringing in partners.
Oh, my.
You and I own Founders Group. We had a third party that had a small interest we bought out. And in Founders Group, we brought on 3 new partners, one of which was given their interest for their loyalty, and 2 others that bought in. So how is it different thinking through the agreement for that versus when we're just us?
Well, you and I are clients have said this, and it doesn't really impress me, but the truth is that we have a rather unique relationship going all these years, in that pretty much we don't have to worry about what the napkin says, right?
Right.
That isn't true with everybody's. I think we were a little gun shy, but it's worked out well. Everything is documented, and the people involved in that case have turned out. There haven't been any issues. We all work together very well.
And whether we've worked it out. You and I gave up a voting block in favor of, because there were 5 partners, we don't control the end up destiny of it unless we, have some terrible clause that we have.
Which was unusual for us, and the first time we've done that.
Yes. Other times we had brought on a partner to our main mothership, Straseri Mancini, early on. Nobody knew that our third partner actually only owed 2%, that we could cut a check to 10 grand for to buy him out. But we treated him like an equal partner, and we went to partner meetings, et cetera. Was that easy or was that hard?
That was hard.
Why was that hard?
There wasn't an alignment of interest. There wasn't an alignment of the souls, I don't think, in that one at all. And you have to have that.
So the interpersonal alignment was less, although it didn't pair that way in the beginning. The other one you've talked about often is there wasn't an alignment of financial interest, because that partner was an eat what you kill. He got a percentage of what he worked on and only 2% of the profit. And you and I never took a piece of what we worked on. We just took profit.
Yeah.
So did that alignment difference cause friction?
I think there were some other issues, but that was a main part of the friction, I think.
What were the other issues?
Personality, goals, philosophies, as I said, just different souls, different ways of looking at things.
Over the years, we've developed some habits that we use with clients and we use for ourselves that seem to have cause not only alignment for us, but alignment for junior partners and staff and referral sources and outside partners. What do you think standardized that we do helps in that?
Well, we start with standardized processes, but beyond that, I think we have really, beyond just intellectualizing it, we have really taken to heart the idea of what we call studying of thought, of dealing with other people, working with them for their own best interests. And I think the team members in general, respond to that and thrive in that environment. We've had, 2 or 3 people with us for over 20 years.
Very true. And what would you say about the partner meetings, the need for doing them or not? How often do we do them and why are they important, if at all?
We generally have 3 to 4 partner meetings a year. We structure them around sometimes events like our fishing
Yes.
we do every year, which is my big joy in life. And we structure them so we are away from the firm, away from the environment where there might be any stress, and we have good times, but we also structure them to deal with specific issues, including sometimes difficult to discuss issues.
Sure. And there's always an agenda ahead.
Always an agenda. We usually have a book that thick of agenda items and a standard way of doing it.
What are some of the typical agenda items or what are some of the unique ones?
Well, the budgets, projections, we go over every one of our employees, how can we help them? What do they want? We have them provide input. We go over each one of our lines of business, our departments, what's happening with those departments, who are the people in those departments, just everything in the business, step by step.
And we're very much into standardized procedures. On those partner meetings, are we just looking at now or is our focus towards its future? Are we verifying what we did in the past? What do you see the most in there?
All of that we do. And we have with us prior minutes of prior meetings, so we can see exactly how things have progressed. If somebody said we're gonna help them to do this, how can we help them to get from here to here? The next year we see how did that happen? What is the progress of that? And I think you might recall, Joe, that on some of these meetings we kind of look at each other with a little bit of amazement, which is, remember when we said we were going to do these things like 6 years ago, and it seemed like, well, that's kind of wishful thinking, and these things happen. They actually are accomplished.
Yes, and you're right. We have big, hairy, audacious goals that get turned into opportunities, that get turned into projects that suddenly become an active thing that's running, and that's been great. Has your attitude about working and being in a partnership changed in the last 10 years
Yes.
or 20 or 30 years?
Yes, we've remember when we were studying some of the Dan Sullivan stuff, and what was that? The retirement trick?
Yes.
I think they called it the retirement trick, which many of you may already have heard about. It's like, well, design your ideal life right now, and that's hard to do, but you continuously work on it. Design the life that you want right now, so that when retirement comes along, it isn't some big bump in the road with a horrible decision, and you've already got your ideal life, and you have to keep working on that. And we've been doing that for a long time, trying to design that.
Because we, at the top of the page, you put, if I was to retire tomorrow, I would, on the left-hand side, stop, on the right-hand side, start.
Yeah.
And we made long lists of what we would stop and what we would start. And that's kind of disappeared over time for a perfect life.
And it morphed, right?
Yes.
It morphed as we went along. I think.
But there's always been more fly fishing.
Yeah. I think, as they say, life happens, and some of that stuff changes. Your health changes, health challenges that you never really anticipated. I was coming home a week or two ago from visiting Carol, and it was dark, and oddly enough, a car stopped in front of me and my reactions weren't that great. They were having a protest, by the way, something about Gaza. And they stopped traffic and the car in front of me was confused and stopped in the middle of the intersection. And the lesson I got from that was, you know what? Maybe I am getting a bit older because my reactions are not what they used to be. I almost hit that guy and I should have had plenty of time to react.
Sure.
So your health changes, things you didn't anticipate on change. I think, you know, do you retire? Do you slow down? Do you change focus? I think that all depends on who you are at your core. And that changes. Are you the kind of person that for retirement is, gee, this is great. I've always wanted to do all these things. I have this bucket list and I want to do all these things. Or are you the kind of person that gets bored? You know, like I always say, how many times can you clean your garage?
Sure.
So for me, retirement is more the latter. I don't want to retire because I have to have a place to get up and go and do things. But I have to recognize the reality of health, age, slowing down, and as Joe alluded to, the health of my wife, which I'm part of her caregiving situation.
So there's a tug and pull for an entrepreneur, where everything finally is working well and it's cruising along and you got to know how to do it. You've got staff taking over doing it. And then there's do I continue to do this, or am I getting tired, or am I getting frustrated, or my reaction time less? Should I retire? There's the tug and the pull of family members saying we'd like you to, or there's the tug and pull of, but if I do that, I'm going to be so bored I want to shoot myself.
You know, and you know, like we used to do the exercise every morning all the time. We
Yes.
got up to the point where I was swimming a half a mile a couple mornings every week. And because of all
I
of
want
the,
this one.
yeah, bragger. Because of all the things that have happened, because of life in general, that hasn't happened. But that's bad because not doing that makes the other things worse. So you have to balance these things.
But you are at a point in your career. I mean, at this point, I'm taking more time off. I'm gone for 4 weeks every 12 and a couple of other things. You're taking more of your time intermittently as Carol needs. But I don't think either one of us could be able to take that kind of time earlier in our career.
No. In our case, we're very fortunate that we traveled a lot when we were young because we did things. So now I don't have to worry about that we've missed out on doing things. But travel.
At one point, we were taking our families on 3 cruises a year.
Yeah.
And fly fishing and Italy and the rest.
Yeah. So the travel part has really shrunk for me.
Sure. So the travel part is less of the desire in retirement for the moment.
For the moment.
Sure. What do you now know that you wish you would have known when you were signing all these partnership agreements?
You know, I really don't have any regrets. I don't have any. I think everything worked out great, primarily because of our relationship.
Yeah. But there's been lots of people, we're the main partners of a variety of things. And some things we own between the two of us 100% of the interest.
Mhm.
And in other 3 or 4 of the others, there are some split with other people. Over the years, have there been times that people wanted to see us vote differently?
Well, I know what you're getting at with that question. Let's just say that that there have been situations where people have wanted to lobby one or the other of us against each other.
Yeah.
That hasn't worked out too well for them.
It hasn't, but we've had to wake up and say, what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
If our wives voted our shares, what would be different about our partnership today?
If our wives voted our shares,
Right. If our wives had the vote instead of us,
I can't even contemplate that.
would it be different?
You know, I don't know that it would be. I don't know.
We're both really lucky.
Yeah.
They're both more or less in line, although they've had their frustrations and tried to influence us too, right?
Well, I think always spouses hear, you know, you come home at night and you may have some dissatisfaction with the day and they hear what you have to say. So then that puts them in a whole different, they
Mindset.
don't see the big picture.
Sure. I'd say overall, both of our wives are very much aligned with us and each other.
Yeah.
As far as anybody in the outside world attacking us. but what we're gonna do, how we spend our money, what profits we take or not, what taxes we owe and when they're owed, are interesting conversations with them. Is that fair?
Yeah.
And then there's always if we're spending money, that's less on profit. But if you don't spend that money, where are you going to get that from? That I think that's the part that's harder to explain sometimes.
Yeah, and the part that's, again, coming back to the way we interact, easier on us because that isn't really a point of contention.
Sure. I'm service. Thank you. So this has been a little bit of an exploration of, even in your own businesses, even in our businesses, there's still a consideration of exit. There's still a consideration of continuation. There's the facing of help and change the circumstances and changing family members' health and the age and time that you're in that drive towards, is there a business succession or not? The other part we haven't talked about is, I at least have one other family member headed in this direction. What's that like for you?
That's, if there was any reason, if there was a reason for me to significantly slow down or retire, the antidote or the opposing force to that would be Joe's son, Sal. He's in his last year of law school, and he really wants to practice in the firm and wants to practice with both of us, and we are both really looking forward to that.
We, as his mentors, would love to see him go in the real world for 5 years, get his knocks, figure it out, and come back. But the worry is, by the time he finishes law school and his LLM, passes the bar, gets his LLM, and went to work for 5 years somewhere else, Uncle may retire by then.
Well, he's not going to practice with Uncle when Uncle's in his 80s, that's for sure.
Well, that's okay. You're only in your 60s now, right? So, any questions for Steve? Thank you all very much for taking the time with us today. Again, as I said at the beginning of the recording, the client that we had scheduled today had a health event. The next one had a health event as well. Last night, Shelly had a health event. With all that, she's not with us and says hi. Steve was nice enough to pinch hit. And the conversation was, even in professionals' practices like ours, what happened through the years? Where are you at now? What were the driving forces? What made you consider retiring or not? What made you consider to continue? And I don't think we're very different than all of our clients. John Garapala, thank you very much. So, any questions? Yes, Joe.
Joe and Steve, for both of you, just curious, how often do you share stories with your clients or clients to be, if you will, saying, I made that mistake once, or we had a client that made a mistake similar to what you're thinking, and here's how it made out. I mean, I'm assuming you share stories that help clients or prospective clients see the potential mistake of their thought process.
I think you're right on that. Stories to help the client. You have to kind of stay away from what I might refer to as war stories. But we do that a lot because we have so many experiences, and sometimes it's easy to relate a story to make a point.
In our case, I would also get on, Joe, our focus are successful families, business owners that are $20 to $200 million in net worth. And we do the business succession for Founders Group, and we do the tax and estate planning as protection for Treasury Mancini. I would say I lean pretty heavily on, we're in a similar situation to you with lots of those clients. So I'll talk about a real estate portfolio of mine. I'll talk about did I 1031 exchange some out into states that don't have a state income tax? Am I worried about S protection? What am I doing with a wife that doesn't want to have control over the assets, but she wants control if I'm not here? And what does that look like? What do you do in partnerships where you're dividing money on some things, but not on real estate? What do you do about vacation and time with kids and paying for things and travel? And I'll equate. Most of the clients will say, well, Joe, I don't take the kind of time you do. I'll talk about buying the 55-foot yacht and then deciding just because you should you, and how much you waste on it, or is it good, or your family get mad because you spend time at it, you don't? Or should you be doing these things with your kids? Is it setting the wrong expectations? So, Joe, I completely agree. We lean heavily on stories of our clients and heavily on stories of ourselves. And often I get asked in our own partnership, I get asked from clients, you and Steve see so aligned, how does that work? Or your team sees so a company, why is that? So we do a lot of that too. So I'll agree, Joe, it's a lot of shared stories, and we share stories that clients allow us to share with others.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So y'all, it's our bewitching hour. It's 8:30. The recording started a tad bit late. Thank you all very, very much. You have a great day. We look forward to you next time as I reveal another business owner. See ya.